Blood and Bone is the title of the film. We observed the presence of a gang inside a maximum security jail, and they were on way to the bathroom, where a man named Bone was. Danny warns Bone that there is a group out there looking for murderers. Danny appears when the gang members enter the bathroom. The gang leader threatens Bone with making him regret not joining them. Bone removes his shirt as he informs the gang leader that he'll give them a chance to flee. The gang leader, on the other hand, was mocking what Bone had said. The gang leader attacks Bone, but he is soon attacked and stabbed by Bone. The gang members try to hit Bone, but he is a great fighter who hits them. He informs the gang leader that he needs to send a message to everyone who is attempting to hurt him. Then Bone goes from prison and finds a hotel to reserve room. Then he meets the hotel's owner, who brings him to his room and tells him that she does not want any troubles from him. He says her that he too does not want any trouble. Bone then proceeds to the arena where the street fight wagers are placed. He witnesses a fight between two people, and then luxury cars arrive, followed by James and his guys. The match's organizer, a man named Pinball, then announces the next fight. The fight was between two warriors, one of which was a worker for James named Hammerman, who had never lost a fight. When the fight begins, Hammerman seriously injures the other man. Hammerman triumphs in the battle. Pinball then hands over the money of bets to James before exiting the place in his automobile. However, he is taken aback by the appearance of Bone in the car, and Pinball believes he is going to rob him. But Bone asks him to set up a battle between him and Hammerman. Pinball refused because he explains Bone that he is an unknown fighter and that he requires a large amount of cash to organize this match for him. Bone hands Pinball $250 and tells him it's all he has. We witness James receive a call from an important guy named Franklin, who requests that he get rid of a man named Daryl. James agrees, but notices Franklin is watching from his car. Pinball appears with Bone and informs James that Bone is the new fighter. James observes Bone has been gazing at his girlfriend, Angela, the entire time, which has irritated James. James warns his friend Angela not to stare at Bone in that manner. Pinball warns Bone not to do what he did to this girl again. James and his troops leave the area. Pinball sets up Bone's first bout against another fighter. The fighter in front of Bone is quite massive, yet Bone notes that he moves slowly. When the fight begins, Bone strikes this fighter and delivers a lethal blow, allowing him to win the bout in a matter of seconds. Pinball was pleased with Bone's victory and tells him that he will schedule battles for him outside of the city in order for him to gain fame, and then he will arrange for him to face Hammermar. Pinball was telling Bone about James's Angela, and he revealed that she was married and pregnant with another man. However, James seized her from her husband by force when he arranged her husband's assassination and imprisoned him. He informs him that James hidden Angela with her child in an unknown area, that Angela was doing drugs, and that her life had become awful. Daryl and his fiancée, whom Franklin had encouraged him to discard, were enjoying dinner with James and his crew. James asks Daryl's girlfriend to play music, then sings and invites everyone to join him. But then James pulls out a sword and stabs Daryl before asking Hammerman to turn up the music and hitting Daryl until he kills. We keep an eye on Bone at his hotel room. We also show James at home, where he sees Angela and is irritated with her for not paying attention to him. James was with one of his men, Teddy, on the second day. Teddy shows a video of Bone's winning fight. James requests that he obtain all information about Bone. We encounter Tamara, who discovers Gerard meeting with street gangs and warns him to stay away from them. Old Roberto requested them to go, but they resisted and cursed Roberto. Then Bone appears, and they flee fast. Pinball arrives in the car to take Bone to a separate location to see a street fight, and there were two girls battling, and one of them was named Veretta, and she won the fight. Pinball approaches Tattoo, who has fighters, and offers to organize a fight between Bone and one of Tattoo's fighters. Before the fight even starts, Bone notices his opponent's shoulder falling as he lands strikes. When the combat begins, Bone delivers a lethal hit to his opponent, defeating him with a single blow. Pinball, thrilled, informs Tattoo that Bone can defeat two fighters at the same time. Tattoo informs him that fighters are on the way. Pinball believes he is involved, and the betting has been increased. Doubled. When the fight begins, Bone dispatches the first opponent with a powerful kick. They then hit the second individual, breaking his hand. Bone informs Tattoo that if he doubles the bet, he'll fight again. Tattoo sends 11 fighters to take against Bone. Bone was able to defeat them all with crushing kicks. Bone takes the money from Tattoo by force after Tattoo threatened Bone with a gun. Veretta was so taken with Bone that she gave him her contact number. Bone continues to train and Pinball arranges street fights for him, which he wins all of. Bone and Pinball make a lot of money and appear to be popular. Bone fights have increased and wins every one of them. Tamara notices Bone returning to the hotel with a minor injury, so she treats him. Bone asks questions about the children she has with her, and she informs him that she has been caring for them for nearly 3 years. However, Gerard the child has only been caring for him for a year. On the second day, she witnesses him teaching Gerard the elements of this sport. James was in his car chasing a female because he feared she had leaked information about him. The girl pleaded with him not to injure her, but James ran over her with his car. Roberto observes what James has done, and James urges Teddy to leave. Hummerman, who is sitting in the car with Teddy and doping before approaching Bone, comes with Bone's fight. Pinball predicts that Bone will win the battle. The fighters are getting ready to fight. The Hummerman was attempting to attack Bone, who was quick and able to avoid the punches. Then Bone hits Hummerman many times, and Hummerman is unable to avoid it. Bone then uses his foot to knock Hummerman out. Pinball proclaims Bone the winner and proceeds to grab the winning bet from James, who is furious. James then invites Bone to dinner to celebrate his victory. Then Pinball and Bone walk to James' place, where Bone looks at the girl Angela. When James notices this, he summons Bone to the office. James assures Bone that he respects all combat sports before displaying a samurai sword to him. However, Bone informs James that he is not very skilled with swords. Then James tells Bone about Franklin, revealing that he is a major guns dealer. He informs him that Franklin operates a multi-million-dollar worldwide fighting game and has a fighter who has never lost a fight, and he wants to organize a match between him and this guy for $5 million. James assures Bone that if he beats him, he would be wealthy and will never have to fight again. Bone says he'll think about it. James notices Bone is still keeping an eye on Angela, who has been searching for drugs that James has hidden. James orders Angela to enter the room and persuade Bone to join the fight. Angela enters the room, but she gets a revolver and threatens Bone as he approaches her. But Bone recognized her because Danny's friend was incarcerated. Danny, Bone's best buddy, is Angela's husband, and he was in prison because of James. In order to get rid of Danny, James also hired a gang in prison to kill him. Bone blames Angela for what happened to her, but she tells him that James is the one who forced her to stay with him after killing her husband and kidnapping her son. Bone informs her that he knows where her son is and will take her there. The two then go out and appear to be having a nice time together. Bone begs James to accompany Angela for a short while. James completely agrees. Angela is taken to a drug rehabilitation center by Bone, who eventually takes her to visit her kid. James travels to Franklin's mansion to meet him, bringing with him $5 million to give Franklin in exchange for allowing Bone to fight his fighter. Franklin agreed to organize the fight, telling him that it would take place in 3 days. Bone is taken aback by the presence of the officers who discovered Roberto's death. Tamara was heartbroken about Roberto's death. Bone discovers that James' men murdered Roberto because Roberto witnessed James murdering a girl. Bone was by Tamara, comforting her. Bone is taken aback by James' presence in the room. James was surprised that he could sit with Tamara instead of Angela, who had taken her from him. He also informed him that he had arranged for him to fight Franklin's fighter. But Bone surprises James by saying he is still thinking about it, and after thinking about it, he declines to fight. James was enraged and informed him that he had paid $5 million in cash. James was ready to draw his sword when Bone stopped him and smacked him. James snatches Tamara and points the pistol at Bone, threatening to kill her and all the children she's raising if he doesn't fight. After James left, Bone asked Tamara to take the kids and go somewhere else for the night. Tamara had no choice but to tell him that when she returned, she didn't want him around. Teddy is told by James to get rid of Bone and Tamara. Hummerman approaches Pinball and inquires about Bone's whereabouts before striking Pinball. But then Bone appears and murders Hummerman, as well as James' other soldiers and his daughter. Because Angela was being treated at the same facility, James comes to him and informs him of her whereabouts. James orders Teddy to go kill Angela, but as they enter the room, They discover Pinball there, pointing a gun at them. Bone arrives from behind them and murders them all. Also, when James attempted to reach Teddy, Pinball killed him. Bone responded by saying that he had slain all of his soldiers and that he would come after killers as well. James sends Bone his location and then phones Franklin to notify him that the battle should take place today. Because it's the case that James sent him, Bone heads to Franklin's residence. James walks in and stands there watching. Franklin and James were there as well, powerful guys watching the fight between Bone and Franklin's fighter. James threatens Bone that if he does not fight, he will murder him today and tomorrow. Bone threatens James with death for the murder of his jailed comrade Danny. Bone's desire to protect Angela was obvious to James. James admits to killing Danny and Roberto, but he had no idea Bone was taping everything. The footage was subsequently shared to Pinball, who informed the police about James. Franklin's warrior enters and declares his intention to kill Bone. Bone puts up a good fight. The other fighter was making fun of Bone. The fight begins, and Bone is aware that his opponent is skilled, but Bone prevails after administering multiple hits to his opponent. But to everyone's amazement, Bone resigned before the game concluded, and he did so in order for James to lose his money, which totaled $5 million. James becomes angry and pulls out his katana, attempting to kill Bone. Franklin orders his troops to give Bone a sword in order for the fight to be fair. James is startled that Bone has sword skills, contrary to what he told him previously. Bone managed to sever James's arm and flee the scene since the police had arrived to arrest James, who was menacing Franklin and threatening to betray him. Angela finishes her therapy and returns to the hotel because Gerard is her son and Tamara raised him. Angela and her kid have been reunited. Tamara suspected Bone was behind it, and she knew he came to this hotel to protect Gerard. Angela invites Bone to stay with them in the hotel, but he informs her that his mission is over and requests that Angela and her kids stay with her. He exits the motel after saying his goodbyes to them and Pinball, telling him that he will never fight again. James was imprisoned in the same facility as Bone at the start of the film. After harassing James, Franklin orders the group to assault him. The film finishes here. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel to see more clips.